to the She Leads podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, CEO and founder of She Leads Media, a global media company dedicated to the advancement of women leaders and entrepreneurs worldwide. I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU and Rice University, where I teach on the topic of entrepreneurship. I'm a mom to two wonderful young men and married to my best friend from college. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women entrepreneurs and leaders. My hope is that these conversations and their advice will encourage you to put yourself out there and gain the visibility that you and all women deserve. We're all about stripping away the sugar-coated conversations and moving boldly in the direction of our magnificent dreams. For far too long, women have been conditioned to soften their words, modify their actions, and show up in the world to conform to outdated at best and harmful at worst cultural norms and ideals. Why? To keep those who are outside of the power structures from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence. This has prevented women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. The She Leads podcast is here to shine the light on all the incredible women, to encourage us to show up, speak up, and showcase the amazing work we do. Speak with confidence about the innovative and transformational thoughts that we have, and celebrate the positive impact that we are making in this world, both personally and professionally. So let's do this. Let's lead. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the She Leads podcast. This episode is brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network. It's the podcast network for women, by women. I am thrilled to welcome my next guest to the She Leads podcast. Her name is Kai Fuentes, and she's a second-generation market researcher. She's been working in insights and research from the ripe old age of 4, conducting her first Intercept interview when she was just 11. Kai fell in love with the art of understanding people's stories and brings cultural insights to the qualitative research arena to facilitate the identification of ethnic-bound perceptions and attitudes of the multicultural market. Kai provides moderation. I looked at that and said modern because Kai is modern. Kai provides moderation and consulting services on a number of projects involving advertisement communication, healthcare, inner city youth, automobiles, and multicultural community issues. Kai can provide creative solutions in data collection for difficult to reach and indigenous populations. Blending old school research techniques with modern techniques, Kai is a wealth of knowledge and unique in her field. She's a sought-after presenter for multicultural market research. With a background in social work, Ms. Fuentes runs her firm with compassion and integrity, and I would probably say fun as well. So welcome to the She Leads podcast, Kai.
Yay, I'm here. I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored to be here. As you know, Adrienne, I'm a huge fan of you and all you do for women in business and women in our industry. So thank you. And thank you for having me. Humbled.
I am so happy to be able to talk to you on this platform because it's so important for us to get our voices, thoughts, opinions out into the world. You are such an accomplished person, and I just want to share everything that it is that you do with the She Leads audience and hopefully beyond. We want to get this out there, right? So market research, it's one of my loves. It is the thing that I think can help entrepreneurs to truly make their businesses great. And I sometimes think that we believe that market research is just for the big companies. So I definitely want to start with the little Kai market researcher of age 4. Oh my gosh.
With the pigtails.
She was driven.
Yeah, with the pigtails, with all the things. Yeah, my parents threw me right in. My mom is an immigrant from Costa Rica, moved to the States when she was 16, taught herself English. Like, she's the epitome of the immigrant story, right? Which makes our country so amazing. So kudos to all those who come and contribute and to just make our society so much better. My mother is one of those folks. And she opened her own market research company back in the 80s when not many companies were doing that. And she's a Black Latina. So that's that's a unicorn in itself.
Yep.
And I was born into the industry. And when I was 4, I was working in the mall with my mom, side by side, bringing staples to other interviewers. I don't even know why I was holding a stapler, but I was, or erasers, or, pages and pages upon surveys. And then I worked my way up into the ranks and I started faxing at 8.
Oh my God.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal. And you remember when the fax papers were curled and I would have to find 2 rocks from the yard and then to flatten it out.
I love it.
Those were the paperweights. It's crazy.
Oh my God.
And then, we had to start when I was 9, 10, my handwriting got good. So they were like, hey, listen, you have to work on these call record sheets because all the surveys that come in, it had to be recorded on a sheet so it can be validated. And that was the old school way of validating surveys. And we wrote, and I was writing call record, sheets, 500 names, 600 names. I mean, it's just, and it's so wild because my kids don't get to do any of that now because research has changed so drastically and how we do things have changed. But my 11-year-old this year, we are doing a transit survey at Port Authority, and I am bringing him with me. I want to break him in,
pay it forward.
Yeah, and now you see now we see what Mama did.
And his keep.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beautiful thing about that is that it teaches you to speak with anybody and to be put in any situation and be comfortable. And that's what I realized that my parents were doing. It was really a training ground for me to be comfortable in my own skin and for me to be able to have conversations with almost anybody, any kind of person, and all the things. So it was actually really a blessing. I didn't realize that at the time because I want to be on a playground. I want to be at play dates. And I was literally working a lot as a young kid. But that really gave me the work ethic that I have now. I tease my sister all the time. I'm like, I will not be outworked. That goes back to, my roots of, growing up in the industry and working side by side with my parents.
Oh my gosh. Well, your mom sounds amazing and good for her for starting this. What was just kind of, talking about your mom for a second, why did she want to get into market research? What was her ultimate goal? Why did she love it?
She wanted something flexible so she could still be a mom and be with my sister and I and, make better money. She was a teacher. Yeah. My mom is probably not a good employee. She's a better employer. She's one of those folks that she's making her own rules. She's a renegade, honey.
I love it. She's an entrepreneur.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it.
So, I think for her,
you learn from the best.
I think so. Yeah. And she wanted to kind of do her own thing. And she started out as an interviewer. She spoke Spanish fluently. That's her first language. So, she was in the inner city communities interviewing folks. And I think she really fell in love with people and the desire to grow a business. And I think that's why a lot of us start our own businesses is the desire to see something grow and to really cultivate something the way we want to have it or see it.
So was your sort of path the whole entire time as you were, going through schooling and everything, were you like, this is what I want to do? Like you sort of were one of the lucky ones that knew what you wanted to do from a young age?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was 8, I realized I was like, I'm going to do this. But I went through round robin to finally get to where I am. So I went to nursing school. I did all of my science classes, realized that I can't give anybody a needle or I don't like the sight of blood or fluids. And I was like, oops, this isn't for me. And I realized that the day I got to the clinicals, which is crazy.
Yes.
And I left the same day.
Oh,
that same day I was in a car accident and had a spiritual awakening. So my whole trajectory kind of changed. But I was still working in research the whole time. Research has always been such a part of me and my profession. So I've done other things, but very briefly. Research has really, been my passion. I've tried to walk away, but I just can't. It's in my blood, like literally in my blood.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So only because you mentioned it, and I love on this podcast, I guess in a lot of ways, this podcast is like market research if I truly listen for the insights. But I would just love to hear, because you're clearly healthy and well. Can you talk a little bit about that accident, if you don't mind, only because I think that that's something that a lot of people can probably relate to?
So, yeah. So I leave the clinicals. I'm headed to the office, my parents' office, because I was like, I guess I'm just going to go and like do some surveys now. Like I didn't know what else to do. Got into a pretty intense car accident. I was driving my parents' car. It was totaled at the time. But what made me well from that was biofeedback. So biofeedback is a type of therapy that looks at you and how you react to certain ideals or things that people can say. So we hold a lot of tension in our bodies. And what biofeedback does, it shows us where we're holding tension so we can release tension so we can be well. So I went through about 2-3 years of very intense biofeedback therapy. Shout out to my biofeedback therapy coach. Shortly thereafter, I went for my own license in biofeedback. So, and that was something that I wanted to do. And anyway, I ended up in research. But what really kept me well was biofeedback therapy and understanding that wherever I am in that moment, if I ground myself, I will be okay and I will power through. And that was kind of just like the mantra in my head, like ground yourself, power through, ground yourself, power through, ground yourself, power through. Yeah, that's kind of how I just like got through that time. It was a super crazy time. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know what I was doing, all the things.
Nobody in their early 20s knows what they're doing.
You got that right.
Hey, people in their 50s, I'm speaking for myself, don't know what I'm doing.
I know.
Just
I
kidding.
hear you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
You know what's funny? It's so funny just listening to you talk about biofeedback because you're researching yourself. It's in the same realm. So interesting, right? So spending all of your time listening to other people. I'm so happy that you're okay. But that was almost a little bit of a gift to also listen to yourself.
You know what? It's all a gift.
Which is so interesting.
Right? And I didn't think of biofeedback in that way. So thank you for that. My mind didn't go there like, it's almost like an interview with yourself, a conversation with yourself.
It is.
You're 1,000% right. Yeah. And I mean, and it's all a gift, right? Like life's a gift. We're here as a gift, and things that happen to us, really, even if they're not what we expect or anticipate, if we look at it in a certain way, that's a gift too. So you're right. My accident was a gift because I was able to really ground myself and learn who I am, or start on that journey of who I am.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that so much. So let's shift gears a little bit because I could definitely go down that path for a long time. I'm always so drawn to that. I think the reason that I'm so drawn to that is because so much of who we are as entrepreneurs show up in our business. And the more that we can understand who we are, what our strengths are, where we, sabotage ourselves or procrastinate or all the, negative things that they all impact our business. So it's like the more that we know about ourselves, I think the better entrepreneurs we can be. I'm so fascinated by it.
Yeah. No, you're preaching to the choir, because I was telling a colleague that the other day, same thing. And I said, I noticed when I started therapy, not biofeedback therapy, but like just regular therapy, that's when my business really took off because I was self-aware. Wow. I realized what my pitfalls were. I was able to put my ego aside. And when you understand all of those things, if you thrive, your business is going to thrive. And that's a huge piece of your business, is your personality is in your business. So if you're if you don't really know where you're going or what you want or how you want to get any of those things, then your business does suffer a little bit, or if you're not self-aware, your business can't thrive as much. And that's why I'm constantly trying to level up and challenge myself. And, I pour into myself as, in many different ways, whether it be physical exercise, even though I got to get back to the gym, quite honestly, but whether it be that or, meditation or, spirituality or brunching with a friend that fills my well. I'm constantly finding little joys in life. So it helps me level up. And I am the business owner that I want to be and that I can be proud of. So for business owners out there, we really have to challenge ourselves all the time. And it's okay when you get to a challenge and you've come to that challenge, you're like, yes, I've climbed that rock. I've climbed that mountain. And you stay there and enjoy that for a little bit, because you also have to enjoy the success and the fruits of your labor. But don't stay there too long, because when you stay still, you get run over. So then what's the next thing? How are you going to level up more?
Yeah. This is so good. And it's so funny because I definitely didn't think that we would be talking about this in this conversation. I'm so happy to go there, because I do think that so many women that are listening into this need to understand that a lot of the businesses, and especially the audience of She Leads, they're not, multi-billion-dollar companies yet, but so we're creating these businesses from our expertise or our passion, and it is intertwined with who we are. So if we don't acknowledge that and work on that, then like you're saying, our business is not going to be able to thrive. So level up yourself, level up your business, because it doesn't work the other way. You cannot level up your business until you level yourself up.
Exactly. And, in my head, it's like your business is your baby, so, you give birth, you have to, take care of the baby. But as a parent, you have to do things, to look at yourself to see, oh, how can I be a better parent? Yes. Or how can I level up? It's the same concept. I'm a mom of two. And I use that analogy often for myself, where it's like, okay, yes, I am filling my well for my boys and also for, my business. And I know that we'll all level up in that way. And the business takes so much of your personality.
It does.
That we have to stay well and, talk kindly to ourselves too, because we don't do that often enough.
No. Oh, gosh. So yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, received an email from some newsletter, and I receive a lot of them. First of all, because I just love information so much. I think it's a problem. I just love reading. I just love learning about all these different things. So I'm subscribed to a bunch of different newsletters. So I got this random newsletter, and I do not even know who it was from. And it was sort of like a side topic. And what the person said was that she was a woman and she went to some, event or conference. And she said that the women were like beating up on themselves and saying bad things about themselves, like, oh, I'm fat or I'm ugly, or, my outfit is from the Salvation Army, whatever. And then all the other women are like, ha, 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 like laughing. And she said, I'm done with that,
yes.
And I wrote her back and I said, my gosh, you are so right. We do this to ourselves. We're beating ourselves up and mocking ourselves, and then other people are jumping in on it. We have a hard enough time as it is. What are we doing?
Yeah.
And, I don't blame the people for saying, oh, because we're socialized to diminish ourselves. But, she said, I'm not going to be in those rooms anymore. And, she said that yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to either.
I hear
her. I am not beating myself up anymore.
Absolutely. No. And it's like, so a trick that I do, because I was the queen of beating myself up for many years. And it was like, this is not getting me anywhere. And it was like this round robin thing, right? So I was beating myself up and I wasn't as successful. And then because I wasn't as successful, I was beating myself up. And because I was beating myself up, I wasn't as successful. And it was like, da, 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 da. So what I started to do was, for every time that I say something bad about myself or unkind to myself, I have to replace it with 3 other good things. So for
Ooh,
instance,
I love this.
I would say often, oh, Kai, oh my gosh, you're just so insecure, right? So it's like, okay, so we got the insecure out there. That's not that kind to say about yourself. Or I would say, let me scratch that. Let me use this example. Or, Kai, you're not a size 8 anymore. You're so fat. Like,
Yeah.
you got to put down the cheesecake. Granted, yeah, maybe I don't need a slice every night, but
Tastes good.
it sure does. And I would have to replace that with, but what else am I? Who am I? I'm bold.
Yeah.
I'm confident.
Ooh.
And I am loving. So for every one thing, because for every one thought, that replays in our head more than positive thoughts. So that's why the ratio is 3 to 1, where we're putting 3 positive thoughts in our mind versus 1 negative thought. And, we become what we think about.
We do.
Right? So, keep your thoughts positive and pure. If your thoughts are negative, then, you attract that. Your thoughts are positive.
It's so true.
You can attract positivity too. So I choose to attract positivity as best as I can. And I wrestle with this every day.
Of course.
But I can try.
Yeah. It is so powerful. And I think as we move through life and we are raising children and things like that, sometimes we get a glimpse of what our thoughts and our actions and what we say, how that has an impact. And it gives us the ability to look in that mirror and say, stop it. Because I certainly don't want, my children saying negative things about themselves because they think that that's how you behave. No, that's not right.
You're 1,000% right.
Yeah, that is something that I have had to really contend with because, I've turned to blaming society. I'm not blaming myself anymore. I'm blaming society and socialization. It's something that I've glommed onto because it's so insidious and we do not recognize what happens to us. We have to be conscious of all of these crazy messages that are coming at us that almost lead us to the, I'm not a size 8. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Who cares?
Who the heck? But because we're programmed against our will, to think that if we're not a size 8, then we're not valuable. That's where the beating up comes from. Yeah. But you are right. 'Cause it's there. It's there. So replacing it with 3 things that truly negate what you have just said in a negative way to yourself is the best thing. And I would challenge everybody that's listening in with this. So we all do it. We have negative thoughts. It's, I think, part of human nature to maybe keep us safe or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But I would say, especially for women, when those negative thoughts come up that we replace them with 3 things, 5 things, 10 things, whatever. And we must, when we network with one another and we talk to one another, we cannot self-deprecate or say something negative about ourselves to try and connect with someone. That's not the way that I want to be connecting with anybody anymore.
I'm with you. And I second that. I co-sign that. Yeah. Let's build each other up and let's connect by building, not by self-deprecation. It's not healthy for anybody. You know what I started doing too? I started if I'm at an event and somebody says, "Oh, you look so pretty." I was programmed to say, "Oh, this old thing," or, "Oh, I just got this at Burlington Coat Factory," or, I've had this, I've had this forever, or something to tear it down. And now I'm just like, thank you. And I'm okay with not having to say, "Oh, you look great too." Right. I'll take that compliment and I'm going to sit in that. That was my moment. And that's just a little joy. And I'm going to be okay with that. So I started doing that. And I started just giving compliments to people, of course, when deserved, right? So if I see somebody, I was in Staples yesterday and it was chaos, all kinds of stuff was happening. And the cashier was so cool and collected and professional. And when it got to my turn, I was like, you handled that really well. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, gosh.
And
that's
she
so
was like,
nice.
oh my gosh, thank you. I haven't heard that in forever. And you just made my whole day. And what does that, just spreading a little joy around to folks, it doesn't take anything away from you. And this is what I've been telling my boys is, it doesn't take anything away from you for you to compliment somebody else. It doesn't mean you are less than because you complimented somebody else, right? Like, why don't we just sit in that?
This is so good. This is so good. And that cashier is now going to say to herself, I'm cool under pressure.
Yes.
Right? Because whether she clearly behaves like that, which is great, but she might not really think that she is, because we have the tendency to not think that we're as great as we are. But now with that external validation that you just gave her, where she is saying, I'm going to be cool under pressure. And someone that I don't know, that's not my mom, said, I'm cool under pressure. Now it's solidified. I must really be cool under pressure because this amazing woman just gave me a compliment. And it goes such a long way. And you're so right. It does not take away from who you are to give that compliment. We need so much more of that in our world. We just do.
Yeah.
We need to be seen. We need to be recognized.
Absolutely. And we need to be more compassionate. And that's part of my, compliment piece is, just showing compassion for people. And to your point, having people feel seen and heard. That's really at the end of the day what a lot of us want. We just want to be seen, heard, and respected. So if you're giving somebody that's you're winning and they're winning. And everybody's winning. And then it's like they pay it forward and then the other person pays it forward. And I don't know, maybe it's a little too idealistic, but that's kind of my thought.
I think it does. And it's so interesting because I will circle this back around because this is what market research is, right? You're listening to what people want, what people hope for, right? And hopefully that market research, that learning, that insight is then used in a great way, in an appropriate way by companies, not to manipulate, but to create things of value for those who you are going out and speaking to. So let's shift gears a tiny bit and talk about the great work that you do, because you're not just listening to anybody, right?
No.
You are listening to people for multicultural learning audiences. And multiculturalism is the world that we live in. To think otherwise is dumb. So it's almost like
straight up dumb.
It almost like shouldn't even be like a category. It should just be like, well, that's everybody.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally.
But can you talk a little bit about your work specifically?
Absolutely. So, I like to also say that the work we do, like if we're doing interviews, it's conversations. So we're having conversations with folks because the word interviewing has like more of a rapid fire kind of connotation. But the research that we do are conversations amongst the multicultural populations. A lot of the work that we do is in language. So it's in Spanish, Mandarin, Cantonese, Haitian, Creole, Korean, just to name a few. And who are we talking to? Well, we're talking to folks that are trying to onboard with a particular insurance company. We are talking to the unacculturated Asian mother in Brooklyn to see how her healthcare could be better. We're talking to the Latino mother or Latino father in California about his immigrating experience. So all of these things, I've made a decision probably about 6 years ago now that I wanted to do more research and more conversations with populations that are unheard and that do not have advocacy, and where we can make real change as it results to that from the research and into that population. And we still do other work too, like, hey, what lipstick is Black women wearing? That's fun. I love those.
Yeah.
Research too, But
Yeah.
a lot of the things that sing to my soul are things that are going to directly impact our communities. And I feel like that we have so much happening in the world. So much is happening in the world. And I'm like, I want to contribute. And, my parents, they were business people for many years, but now they're people of the cloth. And they say to me all the time, as a Bible verse, that use what's in your hands. I don't know what verse it is. I don't know what testament it is, but I haven't been to church in a minute. We'll table that for another time. But I use what's in my hands. So what's in my hands is researching these unsung populations and talking to them in a respectful, honest way. So we can give direct research and feedback to their communities to make real change.
This is so good. It is so good. So is that work that you do work that you undertake on your own through your company, or do community organizations or companies hire you to do that? Or is it a sort of a mix of both?
Yeah, companies hire us to do this kind of work. So we work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of state and local government agencies, federal government agencies, and a lot of folks in the private sector too. That lipstick stuff I was talking about. Yeah, like that's, private sector work. Yeah, it's really companies that are seeking us. But, I do have a couple of research projects in my head that I would just love to do on my own. So maybe that will be coming down the pike.
We got to find a grant for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know it. Yeah, let's do it.
I like this. I like this a lot.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot. It's so funny. I'll put it out there. I've said it before, but one of the projects that I'd like to work on, I don't know whether it's a book or like a documentary or something like that, is this concept of like, this is what leadership looks like, and doing very much what you're saying and showcasing the unsung leaders. And I want to show that no, that's what leadership looks like. Not if you ask somebody, who's a great leader, and everybody says, Elon Musk and Bill Gates. I mean, it's just what comes up. Right. And it's like, no, I don't want that answer anymore. There's so many other people out there. They're doing such great things and leading, and we don't see them. And I want to showcase them.
I love that. And we have to showcase too, folks that are doing servant leadership, right? So,
yeah.
For my team, I tell them, like, how can I help you do your job better? What can I do to help you do your job better? What tools do you need? Do you need space? Do you need time? What do you need? Because I am only as good as my team. That's the only reason why I can do all the things I do. It's because I have an amazing team. And if
so great to
right?
hear.
But it's a beautiful thing, and I'm so blessed, and I truly love them all. It's a beautiful thing when you have your team that uplifts you and allows you to go and to do all these, other projects that I like to do, and that keeps me happy and well and busy. And so we are only as good as our team. And I think leaders have to understand that, like, we are not up here or on different platforms alone. It takes a village. It takes a tribe. It takes a crew. I don't know about you, but it takes a crew of people to get me to, find my house keys. Like
more and more.
Exactly. Yes. I'm a hot mess.
Yes.
So, and it's like, these folks like clean me up and throw me in, and I'm like, okay, great. Yes, my team. It's not me. It's my team. Yes. So I'm only as good as my team.
And, I think that that's a critical success factor too for entrepreneurship, and especially for women. It's like another one of those things that sometimes we don't think enough about because we are socialized to think that we need to do everything on our own. Team is so important. Delegation is the key to success.
OMG. I did a small business seminar like 10, 15 years ago. One of my first ones. My mom signed me up, and I was like, why am I here? Anyway, I'm happy I went. What I learned from that is, as a leader, we are the conductor. So if you see an orchestra, you don't see the conductor playing the harp and then running and playing the violin, and then they're running over and playing something else and just running over and, playing all these instruments. No, they're conducting. Okay, strings, you go. Percussions, you go. Singers, you go. And that's really how it works. And that's what we are as leaders. We are creating a symphony. And if we're leading correctly, it's going to sound pretty damn good. And you can tell if you're not leading right, it don't sound too good. But if everybody has their space and you're giving folks their space and calling on people when needed and as needed, it's a symphony. It takes a while to get there, but you got a Grammy on your hands.
That analogy is, that analogy is perfect and beautiful at the same time. And I think it's something that we often don't equate leadership to conducting, and we often equate it with like that command and control, military type of leadership. That's not the only way. This conductor, this servant leadership, leading from within, these are all different types of leadership that I think that women are really, really good at. We're not good at command and control because you know what? It's mean.
Right. That's not our style.
No. And sometimes you do need to say, you need to put that aside. We need to get this done. Come on. But that doesn't need to be 24/7.
Absolutely not.
So we also have to learn how to kind of like move through and act in accordance with what the situation is calling for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I think, women, what we could do too is be confident in our intuition. Our intuition as women is a gift. It is a huge gift. And when I started to really listen to my intuition and not worry about what outside forces were thinking or saying, that was a world of difference for me. So that little voice that tells you to do, that's how I got into She Leads. I was on.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I was, a little plug here, right? So I was on Google or Eventbrite, and I was like, okay, this looks interesting. And there was a little voice in the back of my head that said, do it. You won't be sorry. That was my intuition. Because intuition is the calm voice. Like that calming voice is intuition. Insecurity is a chaos voice that you hear in your head. But your intuition is that calm voice of just like, do it. It's okay. And in my head, it was like, sign up for that. You won't be sorry. Spend a day there. Just just chill. And I went and had an amazing time, and I'm going back this year.
Yay! 10th anniversary.
Yes. And I'm going to bring some friends with me too. So I'm spreading the good gospel. What you're doing is amazing, sis. It's really amazing.
Thank you so much. It's definitely been a labor of love for 10 years. And I just hope that, the people that are sort of coming through and that we're all interacting and touching in one way or another, that we all go out and do something that makes an impact and that helps other women. Just because, equality is, who knows if it'll ever be achieved on so many different fronts, but at least we can hold that in our thought. That's what we're moving toward instead of just giving up and taking things the way that they are. And also not being, we don't need to go to war for it to change. We can make these changes in a really positive and uplifting way. So I hope the people that choose to come to She Leads are like you, and that they do bring friends so that we can all encourage and uplift one another, and then go out there and do like great things.
Absolutely.
Right? That benefit all of us, that benefit humanity.
And it's those little things that will make humanity, the big thing, which is humanity, better. Right? So that's the using what's in your hand theory of, I'm one person, but I'm going to impact several, and in impacting several, they will impact several more. So That's kind of
Oh my gosh,
my thought through that.
Such good stuff. I love that. So Kai, I feel like I could talk to you all day. And one of the things that I definitely want to talk about, maybe we could just hit on it for the last minute or so. Market research is so important when it comes to entrepreneurship. And sometimes as women, we do think that we have everything that we need, all the insight that we need inside, but we have to talk to our customers because those are the people that are paying us the money. So can you give any tips for people that maybe they're like stuck in their business, they want to get to the next level? How can they leverage listening to customers in order to sort of level their business up or change or pivot or whatever?
Yeah, I would have conversations with your top 3 clients, whether that be whether that be revenue client or closeness in terms of your relationship with that client. I would talk to 3, maybe even 5 clients if that's available, and ask them, how can I be more of a resource to you? What would it take for you to use me and my services more? What services am I missing? And I did that with several clients and found out that, yes, we are the cat's meow, but there's some things that we could do a little better too. And there's some offerings that we're missing that we could add. And in doing that and having these conversations, we were able to increase business by 5 to 10%.
Amazing.
So sometimes it's not about getting more customers or more clients. Cultivate the relationships that you have and really, really watch those blossom. You'll be surprised. So if your numbers are not where you want it to be for Q2 or Q3 or wherever, go back to your top 3 to 5 clients and find out, what can you be doing differently? What services can you add? And what else they could do to use more of you. And be honest and say, listen, I want to be more of a partner to you. This is a partnership. What else can I be doing? What else can my firm do? And you'd be surprised what comes out of that. Lots and lots and lots of good things. Yeah. So that's what I would do. And actually, I just reminded myself, I got to redo that with a couple of other clients. I just reminded myself, I got to do that with a couple of my clients over the summer. And it could be a simple Zoom call or a simple phone call. We don't have to get fancy, just something nice and low-lying fruit kind of thing. So I would totally recommend that, and putting your ego aside.
Yes, absolutely. You have to be able to actually hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, only because I teach this about listening to customers, you want to have a conversation with them. You don't want to send a survey.
No.
In this case,
agreed.
This is not a survey situation. No. This is a conversation.
This is a conversation. Absolutely.
And it's not a sales conversation.
No, it's a conversation where you're listening and your ego is aside. There were some things that I didn't want to hear. And that, as I was hearing it, I was getting uncomfortable. And I was like, and then in my head, I was trying to blame, well, this person did that and that person did that. And that happened when I was 14. It's like, no. These things happen. And, the buck stops here. So what are you going to do going back to leveling up? How are you going to level up to make those changes needed to really grow your business?
Such good stuff. Thank you so much for this whole entire conversation that spanned so many different topics, which I totally love. And I just want to, share you with the She Leads audience. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So name my company is Ebony Marketing Systems. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, Kai Fuentes, or go to ebonysystems.com to our website and you'll find me. I'm around.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been a joy speaking with you today.
A real honor to be here. Thank you for having me, Adrienne.
This and all of our episodes are brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network, the podcast network for women, by women. Thanks so much for listening to the She Leads podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support us, please share it with others, make a personalized post about what you took away on social media, and please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This helps our guests and our show to continue to gain visibility and traction. To learn more about how She Leads Media helps women to gain visibility, you can follow us on Instagram at She Leads Media, or you can head on over to sheleadsmedia.com. If you'd like to network with me and other amazing women, don't forget to join us each year for the She Leads Live conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. This is the She Leads Podcast Network.